Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a really cool radical expression that we're going to simplify, and at first glance it might look like a mess of square roots, but watch how we're going to clean it up with one clever trick. So let's get started. I'm going to take this term by term, so we'll start with 1 divided by the square root of 4 plus the square root of 3. So let me copy this and bring it down to a new line, and let's work with this one first. So the first thing we're going to do is write an equivalent radical expression. So the 1's going to stay the same, but we can write the square root of 4 as 2. So let's do that. So we put the 2 there, and then we have the plus square root of 3. And now comes the really clever trick. This trick is called the conjugate. And the conjugate, to find the conjugate, all you have to do is flip this one sign right here. And when you multiply by the conjugate, so in this case it'd be 2 minus, right, we're flipping the sign, minus the square root of 3 divided by 2 minus the square root of 3. And notice how this whole expression here is really just 1 in disguise, right? It's just 1 in disguise. But when you do the multiplication, it's going to simplify extremely nicely, and you'll see what I mean in a second. And that's the whole purpose of doing a conjugate in the first place. So let's just do it, right? So the numerator will just be 2 minus the square root of 3. And we're going to divide by 2 plus the square root of 3. And 2 minus the square root of 3. I don't know why that radical keeps flipping up like that, but anyway. So that's what we have now. And let's reduce this further. So the numerator is not going to change, right? We still have that 2 minus the square root of 3. And let's FOIL out the denominator and see what happens. What was the purpose of multiplying by this conjugate? So the first would be 2 times 2, which is 4. So we'll write 4 here. The outside would be 2 times negative square root 3, which is negative 2 square root 3. But before I write that down, let's look at the inside term. Square root of 3 times 2, which would be positive 2 times square root 3, which if you add those two last terms together, the outside and the inside terms together, it's just going to make 0. So we're not going to write that one down. And the last term would be the square root of 3 times negative square root of 3, which would just be minus 3. And as you can see, this denominator reduced down to no square roots, and that is the point of doing the conjugate in the first place. So 4 minus 3, that's just 1, and anything divided by 1 is just itself. So we're left with 2 minus the square root of 3. So that is the simplified first term. We'll put a green box around that. So now we just have to do that for the other 3 terms. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's grab our second term here, bring it down just the same as we did in for the first term. And this one doesn't simplify like the first one did with the square root of 4 being 2. So let's just skip that first step and go straight to the conjugate. So let's multiply by the conjugate. And again, all we have to do is flip that sign. So we have the square root of 3 minus the square root of 2. And we're going to divide by the same thing so that we're not really changing the value of this expression. Square root of 3 minus the square root of 2. Like that. And then let's multiply this out. So the numerator is just going to be the square root of 3 minus the square root of 2. And we're going to divide by square root 3 plus square root 2 times square root 3 minus square root 2. And let's do some further simplification here. So the square root of 3, it's a bad square root of 3 minus the square root of 2 is going to stay the same in the numerator. And let's now FOIL out the denominator and see what happens. So we get the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 as our first term. That's going to be 3, right? So we'll put 3 here. And then the outside and the inside terms we know we're going to cancel because we multiply by the conjugate, but let's just see that again. So we have square root of 3 times negative square root of 2, and then we have positive square root of 2 times positive square root of 3. And when you multiply those together and add them, it's just going to make 0. So we're not going to write that in our final denominator. But then the last term, which is square root of 2 times square root, or excuse me, negative square root of 2, will be negative 2, so we'll do minus 2. And look at that, the denominator is now 1, right? 3 minus 2 is 1, and so this is just going to be the square root of 3 minus the square root of 2. And that is going to be our second green box that we're going to need to solve this problem. And we've now successfully simplified the second term. So now all that's left is to simplify the last term. So let's go ahead and grab it. 1 divided by square root 2 plus square root 1, and let's bring it down here like this. And we notice that we can do like what we did with the first term, and we can reduce this a little bit. I mean, it's not going to help us all that much, but might as well, right? We get 1 divided by square root 2 plus the square root of 1. Well, that's just 1, right? So we'll just write that as 1. And now we can multiply by the conjugate, right? So square root of 2, change the sign, so it was a plus, so now it's a minus 1, and divide by the same thing, so square root of 2 minus 1, and let's do the multiplication here. So in the numerator, we'll have square root of 2 minus 1, and in the denominator, we'll have square root of 2 plus 1 times the square root of 2 minus 1. And let's distribute out or FOIL the denominator. So we'll get square root of 2 minus 1 on the numerator. That's not going to change, right? And in the denominator, we can FOIL this out. So square root of 2 times square root of 2. That's just 2. Put that there. We know the outside and the inside terms are going to cancel, but let's look at it again. Square root of 2 times negative 1, that's negative square root 2. And 1 times square root 2, that's just positive square root 2. Add those together, you get 0. And that really is the power of the conjugate, right? We can take these square roots and we can completely remove them from our denominator. And the last term is just going to be 1 times negative 1, which is negative 1. So we'll subtract 1, and look at that. 2 minus 1 is 1, and then divided by 1 is itself. So we get our last simplified term, square root of 2 minus 1. And let's put a green box around that. Okay, and so now that we've reduced or rationalized, used the conjugate on all these terms, let's add them all up, right? So the first one here is 2 minus the square root of 3. So let's put that in parentheses. 2 minus the square root of 3. The square root of 3. We're going to add square root 3 minus square root 2, right? That was our second term, square root 3 minus square root 2. And then our last term, which is square root 2. I don't know why it keeps making that square root, but square root 2 minus 1. Okay, so now if we drop the parentheses, we can clearly see what's going to happen here. 2 minus the square root of 3 plus the square root of 3 minus the square root of 2 plus the square root of 2 minus 1. And would you look at that? Square root minus square root of 3 plus square root of 3, that's just 0. Those are going to cancel. Minus square root of 2 plus square root of 2, those are just, that's 0. That's going to cancel. And all that survives is 2 minus 1. And 2 minus 1, well, that's just 1. And believe it or not, that is our final answer. That is what that whole giant nasty mess of square roots looked like after we simplified it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you learned something about the power of conjugates. A really complicated looking square root expression gets simplified down to 1. That's what I love about math, and I hope you guys enjoyed that as well. If you did, make sure and leave a like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what kind of math videos you'd like to see if you're taking a class and a specific concept is not making sense to you, or just for entertainment, what you'd like to see. Let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to make a video on it, and I will see you all in the next video. Oh, one more thing. I'm going to start a linear algebra mini course here. They're going to be slightly higher production, so it should take me some more time to get those out to you guys, but I hope you'll like them, so stay tuned, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.